So, I know that's a very big headline and it's a clickbaity headline on purpose. If you know me, you'll know that's my antics. And you might be thinking, whatever this is, it might not work for me, my story's different and stuff. The whole thing about today is I want to make it work for you. I want to make my knowledge work for you because I banged my head against the wall for a very long time and alleviating suffering is a big part of my purpose. So if I can take some of the guesswork out of it for you, please take advantage of the suffering I've been through to get to where I am now. Now, where I am now is awesome. I've had a great decade. Seriously, like I've done MMA every day. I've made money doing it, hanging out with friends, just fighting. It's been awesome. I've had sex with a bunch of beautiful women. I still don't really understand why. Like, it has just been awesome. So much gratitude. I had 2 girlfriends for a while. They knew about each other. Everything was above board. I probably wouldn't do it again. It was pretty annoying. It was pretty stressful. It was really just like time was the issue. And, you think you want 2 girlfriends, but the thing about having 2 girlfriends is having more than 0 girlfriends. Anyway, it was okay. It's just like hard to manage all the expectations and, give them both attention and get my stuff done as well. Because as you know, I'm a successful, driven, very busy, like if I'm not busy, I'm upset kind of person, all right? Anyway, the last 10 years have been great. MMA, beautiful women, and I haven't had a real job in 10 years. Like I've just done stuff that I like doing. So let me tell you how I got here. So my book is coming out soon. It is about addiction. Okay, so I was an addict for probably 10 years. I got myself out of it. I didn't do AA or anything. Like I read a lot of books and stuff, and I really just worked on myself. All right, so I started drinking at about 12. I had a couple of drinks, and I actually didn't really like it because I sort of lost control and didn't feel right and stuff. But I gave it a few goes, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Not really enjoying it, but I can do this, and I was able to do it at parties with people. Then at around 13, I started dealing weed. I had this Vietnamese kid kind of worked on me and taught me how to do it and stuff, and so that was one way that I got by and made money because I was a poor kid in a rich neighborhood. So you really notice when the people around you have got money and you don't. So I had to kind of catch up. It was because I was from a broken home and that, and my parents were sort of trying to get their own finances together. There wasn't this resource for me, so I had to come up with another way of doing it. Meanwhile, when I had like my business assessed by one of those what are they called, Dragon's Den panels at one stage, I was like, well, I dealt drugs for a long time, and they're like, it's a business, however you learn. So when I was an addict, and if you've ever been an addict, you'll connect. Every day is the same. Like you're just trying to get away from yourself. You're just trying to get away from like the demon that's there when you get up in the morning. So just every day is about pushing the button. It's just like, how do I get away? How do I get away? And stuff. And it becomes about trying not to push the button and then pushing it, and then you feel guilty, and it's like you really don't learn any new stuff because you're just obsessed with pushing and not pushing the button, right? And there's research to show that people don't develop mentally because they're not learning new stuff because you're just dealing with the addiction, right? So there's this discrepancy that comes with it is you want to quit and then you don't want to quit and you can't quit and you feel like you have to because it's just, you're on this like merry-go-round, like revolving door of like trying to relieve yourself emotionally from the suffering, but it's like that's giving you more suffering. There's a joke like the alcoholics trying to get away from their problems, but all of their problems are financial, so becomes a bit of a vicious cycle, right? But if you go to any AA or NA group in the world, like you're going to hear vaguely the same stories, like trying not to push the button, driving yourself crazy, and then like self-medicating from the stress that you've caused yourself, and etc. Anyway, how did I stop pressing the button? So I gradually realized that talking about my emotions helped me to process my emotions, right? So there was this like emotionally relieving through addiction, or there was this like emotionally relieving through talking, sharing, having other people's viewpoints, helping you to rectify your own insecurities and inadequacies by discussing them with someone else who had a different light to shine on it in a different way, in different words. So what I learned was that by processing, I didn't need to use the drugs to get that relief, all right? So there was a correlation there. And as I gradually delved into that, like this healing journey and stuff, I found it much easier to not press the button. What am I getting at? Why am I wasting your time? The moral to the story is cognitive behavioral therapy isn't enough to get you to stop doing the thing, right? So you have to get to the emotional motivator of why am I compelled to do the thing, all right? So trying not to push the button didn't work. I was trying to address it on a behavioral level by thinking about it, right? Cognitive behavioral. But underneath it, the emotional driver would just overcome my willpower to not do the behavior, all right? And we're gonna get into that later because it is very, very related to diet and emotional eating. So rule number 1, identify the emotional driver. Everyone is the same, right? We all have the same stuff, all right? I'm not special. It took me 2 years of banging my head against the wall to figure out this one thing, all right? But once I learned it, I was able to apply the principle to rectify a bunch of areas that I had conflict, all right? So this idea applies to not just health, but money, love, and any kind of goal-setting success venture that you're looking into, all right? So identify the emotion, let it speak to you, instead of like trying to relieve yourself from the pressure that the emotion's putting on you. It's like letting it come, processing it, sitting with it, discussing it with other people. Not only has this worked for myself, but I've used it for every client I've ever had to get them the results that they want in terms of fitness, and then in recent years more into success and like goal setting and stuff. And the main thing that we can achieve by healing trauma is relieving the sabotage, all right? So the problem with trying to do it on a behavioral level is your self-concept and your imagination will always beat willpower, okay? So trying to condition a behavior and a skill will always kind of lose out to what you believe, all right? So if you believe you are fat or poor or unattractive, it's very hard to lose weight and become fit, or attract a partner because you believe you're unattractive, or make money because you just believe that you're a poor person and that's what you should be, and so you live like that because that's what I am, right? So by healing the trauma and stuff around that that's conditioned the beliefs, we're able to then generate more positive results, okay? So identity governs emotions. Now, it's very hard to change. So say you're an alcoholic and you're like, this is just what I do. I stay up late, I spend all my money on booze. Then it's hard to go, what does a non-alcoholic do? And even then you're focusing on away from the negative thing, all right? So we want to go, well, what do I want to be? I want to be an Instagram model. That's a very different thing to an alcoholic, all right? That's a very different identity structure and belief structure, all right? So side note, having sex with women who don't drink alcohol has been fucking awesome, all right? So if you can imagine like the late night party girl who's like out till 4 a.m. and like sleeps with you because you're there, it's very different to like someone who comes over to your house, has a nice healthy dinner, works out a lot, spends all that alcohol money on makeup and shit, like hair extensions and stuff. Like, it's been fucking ace. Anyway, humble brag. It's not particularly humble. Anyway, so after drugs, I moved into like creativity and music and running gigs and stuff. I've actually got a tattoo that says Archangel from the art collective that I used to run, Angel Circus, all right? And so Angel Circus was like my first massive like vision created into a success, right? So after that, I was like, oh, I can imagine something and then create it. And so basically I got a bunch of artists to work together. It was the art collective. So we had performance poets, videographers, musicians, visual artists. We sold paintings at the gig. Somebody curated that. We had a listening station as well, so you could listen to the CDs and buy them and stuff like that. And it was just a really thriving community, right? And we kept on outgrowing the venues, right? And then one day we were at the fourth venue, which was the big house. It's now the Penny Black. And I rocked up and the dude on the door was like, oh, $5 please. And I was like, I don't pay, man. And he was just like, oh, okay. But it was like so big that people didn't even know who I was that worked for us. So it was awesome. And then they had a team that went to like Earthcore and did festivals and shit. And like, I didn't even touch that by then. I'd like set it free. And if it's yours, if it's truly yours, it'll come back to you. And it didn't come back to me. So by then it had become something else that belonged to other people, which I was just grateful for in a different way. And that really helped me to express a lot of the suffering and that I felt through my like lousy traumatic childhood. And that made me feel a lot better, and I didn't feel as compelled to drink or do drugs. Like I didn't drink at my 21st. I did like drink and do a little bit of cocaine at other people's birthdays and maybe once a year on my birthday and stuff. But like I've been pretty sober since around 20. Like not drinking at my 21st was like something that I've always been very proud of because it's like such a culturally accepted and expected thing. So that was really powerful. But again, like the more that I explored my emotions and like processed them and expressed them, the less compelled I felt to try to escape them by self-medicating, right? So that was cool. After doing all the artsy stuff and like feeling like status and power and that and like the ability to succeed, then I started to move into fitness and that because I just like liked being fit, I liked doing weights, I liked fucking exercising, right? And it made me feel good, it gave me like a good hormonal release. And then one of my mate's girlfriends, who like I was also quite good friends with, she was like, oh, you should do a personal training course. And I was like, where's this coming from? And she's like, oh, you're always reading those stupid fitness magazines. And I was like, yeah, pretty much. And so when I went and did my personal training course, I actually paid it off for a year before I did it because I didn't want to be in debt and then trying to get it back. So I just chipped away at it and then went and did it. And then I found that, you know, everyone was doing boxing and stuff. And like I'd done a bunch of Kung Fu. And so I just started teaching Kung Fu. That was like my thing. And, you know, a lot of people might be sniggering at that because, you know, in Kung Fu and karate and that, we stand with our hands down by our waist because it was, you know, 10,000 years ago where people didn't stand at close range and throw really quick punches. So let's just say the styles are a little dated. But yeah, so I started off teaching people like the animal styles, the tiger and the crane and that sort of thing. And even that, I noticed that people's confidence would change. And, you know, you'd have like a young girl telling her boyfriend to get fucked. And then all of a sudden he'd start treating her really well. Like she quit her job, like, because the boss wasn't treating her and they like gave her a raise and stuff like that. And you'd see this like these people changing because of like what was happening for them emotionally. They're moving towards these positive emotions, right? So it's bringing up this positive stuff in them. Like instead of like trying to get rid of the fear with like get rid of the anxiety, this kind of thing, it was like positive hormones that came from the exercise and stuff. So I felt like I was onto something. I felt like something powerful is happening here. If I can do it for myself and it makes me feel good and it makes me not feel like doing drugs, maybe this is a big part of who I am, being able to share this purpose with the world. Right? I then refined my system to become like, what's the least amount of stuff that someone has to learn to be fit, right? To lose weight, but also to have endurance, to have strength, to not get tired, to not have a sore back. Like I worked in hospitality and that, and so a lot of people had, you know, leg, ankle, knee problems and like sore backs and stuff from standing up all day. So it's like, okay, posterior chain muscle. This is cool. So the muscles that go down your back and go down your legs, that seemed to alleviate some suffering in that area. And you get a lot of girls that want to train and stuff, but they're like, I don't want to get too bulky, I don't want to get bigger. And it's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to put some muscle on your lower back, we're going to put some muscle on your hamstrings. It's going to make you more comfortable, but it's not going to make you like bigger, you know, it's just going to make you stronger and your day is going to be less painful. Time and time again, I was able to get people to lose 10 kilos in the first month, all right? Sometimes it didn't work and I was like, why didn't it work? Sometimes it was like a little bit more of a challenge and I had to like tweak on some of that like emotional self-sabotage stuff. And I actually found like by the end of it, it made so much sense to me that it was like almost ridiculous, but it was just like people who hadn't put in the research and who hadn't worked on themselves emotionally were incapable of like rectifying certain things, all right? And again, the discrepancy, like the fighting yourself and the trying to do something but also trying not to do it because you don't believe that that's who you are and stuff, like there's this real conflict there. And it was like it became like a big obsession of mine to try and figure out what are the least amount of things that most people are stressed about and what's the easiest way to get there.